This policy memo, which I have in front of me, it's called PM-6020188. The subject is restoring a rigorous, holistic, and comprehensive good moral character evaluation standard for aliens applying for naturalization. This sets out a whole different framework, instructing immigration officers to consider different things as of August 15th, 2025. Hey guys, let's talk about good moral character and naturalization. On August 15th, 2025, there was a USCIS policy memo which basically instructed USCIS officers to consider a whole bunch of different stuff when it comes to proving that an applicant had good moral character. When you apply for naturalization, you generally need to demonstrate that you've been a person of good character for the last 3 years if you're applying based on the 3-year provision, based on being in a good faith marriage to a US citizen, or for most people it's 5 years of good character if you're applying based on the general provision for naturalization. Historically, good moral character just meant the lack of disqualifying bad character. For example, if you've been convicted of a DUI within the last 5 years and you're applying for citizenship based on the 5-year general provision, you're not going to be found to have good character. You're going to need to wait until 5 years have passed after the disqualifying conduct. And in fact, sometimes it's not just the conduct, but the consequence. So if you got a DUI in 2020 and you were sentenced to 1 year of probation, which ended in 2026, you might need to wait the 5 years from when probation ended in 2026 before you're eligible for naturalization. This policy memo, which I have in front of me, it's called PM-6020188. The subject is restoring a rigorous, holistic, and comprehensive good moral character evaluation standard for aliens applying for naturalization. This sets out a whole different framework, instructing immigration officers to consider different things as of August 15th, 2025. However, last week, I attended a naturalization interview with one of my clients, and the officer didn't apply any of this stuff. So this tells them to consider other stuff, but there's actually a federal register that goes into effect on October 20th, where there will be a whole new set of requirements. They're going to be applying a new citizenship test, the civics and history test, and the officers are now going to be forced to comply with the new good moral character requirements. But I still think it's a good idea to read through the memo from August 15th because this is probably going to be in full force as of October 20th. Going forward, and I'm reading directly, USCIS officers must account for an alien's positive attributes and not simply the absence of misconduct. In evaluating whether or not an alien has met the requirement of establishing good moral character, the officer must take a holistic approach in evaluating whether or not an alien seeking naturalization has affirmatively established that he or she has met their burden of establishing that they are worthy of assuming the rights and responsibilities of US citizenship. They provide a list of things that USCIS officers should now consider. USCIS will now place a greater emphasis on an alien's positive attributes and contributions in good moral character determinations. These positive factors include, but are not limited to, sustained community involvement and contributions in the US, family caregiving responsibility and ties in the US, educational attainment, stable and lawful employment history and achievements, length of lawful residence in the US, and compliance with tax obligations and financial responsibilities in the US. Additionally, USCIS will focus more on disqualifying behavior and actions. And there's a bunch of stuff they list here, but one that I found particularly interesting was any other acts that are contrary to the average behavior of citizens in jurisdiction where aliens reside. These could be actions that, while technically lawful, may be inconsistent with civic responsibility within the community, such as reckless or habitual traffic infractions or harassment or aggressive solicitation. So what they're saying is that they can use non-criminal behavior now to find that you didn't have good character. They could take a series of traffic violations and find, hey, this shows a pattern of bad character. This shows a pattern of failure to regard the rules of society that we think the average person of good character would abide by. This basically gives the immigration officer like 100 new ways to deny any new naturalization application, so it's something to keep in mind. For people who have naturalization interviews between now and October 20th, I would try to beef up your good moral character. You know, if you can find people who can give you letters of recommendation, if you have any certificates of achievement, community service awards, if you've achieved a lot educationally, if you have advanced degrees, I would submit evidence of all of this stuff. Or even if you've had like a pretty consistent job for a long period of time, I would submit evidence of this, although it's unlikely to make a real difference. Applications that are gonna be adjudicated or decided after October 20th, I think are gonna pay much more attention to this stuff. All right, guys, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you qualify for naturalization now, I would apply right now or wait until the Trump administration is no longer in office and hope that the next presidential administration is any better when it comes to immigration. Because I really think the naturalization process over the next few years is going to just get harder and harder and harder. So the chances of success are probably higher now than they will be 2 years from now, for example. If you're interested in subjects like this, or you want to stay up to date on all the most recent changes and you want to get your news directly from an immigration lawyer who's on the ground dealing with this stuff day to day, be sure to subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in this specific topic, be sure to like the video. And if you need any specific guidance yourself, you want to talk to a lawyer or create a strategy or just hire someone to handle your whole case from start to finish so you don't have to worry about it, you should talk to me directly. My name is Pouyan Darian. I'm an immigration attorney and I handle these cases nationwide. I would be more than happy to speak to you about your case. If you want to talk, you can go to my video description of my YouTube video and just click the booking link to schedule a consultation, or you can go on my website, darianlaw.com, and schedule a consultation directly there. I look forward to speaking with you, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time for another video.